They're really creepy, actually, but that is actually accurate. I like the woke AI over on True Social. There's more. Have grocery prices gone down since Trump took office? Short answer, no. As of 2025, grocery prices have not fallen since January 2025. They've continued to rise modestly on net and gave specific sources and specific amounts. In some cases, the rise is small, in others it's larger, but it's accurate. It's based on actual information. And I'm sure they're freaking out about it right now. But you're not really mad at the AI, you're mad at the data, you're mad at reality. Here's a simple one, easy to answer, even an AI can do it. Do Trump's tariffs cost the American people money? Yes. Tariffs are taxes on imports that US importers pay and largely pass on through higher prices. So the costs are borne mainly by American businesses and consumers, which is true. I mean, that just philosophically, that is how it works. And an analysis has shown that over 55% already, let alone in the long run, of the cost has been borne by the consumer. So you can get mad at reality. I certainly do. Donald Trump is president. I hate this timeline, but that doesn't make it inaccurate. And calling it woke doesn't change the facts on the ground. It might make you feel a little bit more comfortable. I know that you're really triggered, you're really sensitive or whatever, but like take it up with reality. Don't take it up with the AI. But finally, and this I think will hit them closer to home than any other. Did Donald Trump lie about the 2020 election being rigged and stolen? Yes. Truth Social tells us. Courts, Trump's own advisors, and official investigations found no evidence that the 2020 election was rigged or stolen, despite his repeated claims. And they even pointed out that he lost dozens of lawsuits. And that has to be the truth, because that's the name of the platform. That's pretty much how it works. Anyway, I'm sure that Donald Trump is gonna try to clamp down on this. They're probably gonna remove the feature entirely, because the weird thing has been, it's actually hard to specifically stop an AI from doing certain sorts of things. It's actually kind of a black box when you really get down to it. And the issue is that it is actually just reading in accurate information. It's hard to get it to do something other than that. That's why Grok keeps, every once in a while it becomes Mecha Hitler, but also every once in a while it says things that Elon Musk really doesn't prefer. Anyway, still shouldn't go on True Social. Never ever go on True Social, but it is fun at Trump's expense. Okay, that is unfortunately all the time we have for the show today. Thank you everybody for joining us. We're gonna have Brett coming on tomorrow. We're gonna be doing our Garbage People of the Week, so definitely go on the post tab on YouTube. You can go vote to see who is our garbage person of the week, who is our hero of the week. I can't wait to see those. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day, none other than our dear brother, Tehran Von Ghasri. Always fascinating to have his analysis. Top story of the day. The Reverend Jesse Jackson has been hospitalized. We have the details and some background. Here it is.
As many will remember, Jackson is a historic figure in the civil rights movement. We were told overnight he was brought here to the hospital for observation. Now, sources tell ABC News the 84-year-old is being treated here at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Jackson's longtime Chicago-based social justice organization Rainbow Push is saying in a statement that he is under observation for progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP, a neurodegenerative disorder that he has managed for more than a decade. Adding, Jackson, who was initially diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, received confirmation of his PSP diagnosis in April. Jackson rising to the national stage in the 1960s when he was part of Dr. Martin Luther King's inner circle, calling for nonviolent protest, and was even considered Dr. King's protege for some time. For more than 60 years, Jackson has advocated for racial equality and economic justice, and he ran for president twice in 1984 and then 1988. In recent years, Jackson has been seen in a wheelchair as he battled the impact of his Parkinson's disease. Now,
I've seen Reverend Jackson over the years, and I have worked with Reverend Jackson and also saw the decline of his physical condition when he had to travel by way of wheelchair. But he continued to travel and he continued to show up. I remember during one of our Occupy Atlanta, to be exact, events that we had, Jesse Jackson showed up and gave everyone such a great moral encouragement for that kind of activism. And during that stage of the Occupy movement, many gatekeepers in the civil rights movement were against us in the Occupy movement. And for Jesse Jackson to squarely side with us during that time, that pivotal time, gave us a significant amount of encouragement and also some credibility in our civil rights cohort. I'm going to give some background. According to CNN, November 12th, Reverend Jesse Jackson was reportedly hospitalized and has been undergoing observation for progressive supranuclear palsy. The progressive palsy is a brain disease that causes an individual to have issues with balance, swallowing, walking, and eye movements. That's according to the Mayo Clinic. The condition is caused by damage to brain cells. Reverend Jackson, considered a protege to the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., King gave Jackson a role, if you recall, many years ago in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, charged him with establishing the organization's presence in Chicago. Jackson rose to national prominence in the 1960s and has spent more than 6 decades advocating for racial equality, economic justice, and voter rights. Jackson in 1971 founded Operation Push as a way to improve Black communities' economic conditions across the U.S. Jackson later launched the National Rainbow Push Coalition in 1984 with the goal of obtaining equal rights for all Americans according to the Rainbow Push Coalition mantra. Some 12 years later, the organizations merged to form Rainbow Push Coalition. The organization's origins stem from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference's Operation Breadbasket, founded by King, according to the website. Jackson's health drew public attention in 2017 when he spoke openly for the first time about his diagnosis of Parkinson's, an incurable disease characterized by tremors, stiffness, and impaired movement. Quote, "My family and I began to notice changes about 3 years ago," Jackson wrote in a statement at the time, calling the recognition of the symptoms painful and noting Parkinson's was the disease that bested my father, end quote. He said he took the diagnosis as, quote, a signal that I must make lifestyle changes and dedicate myself to physical therapy in hopes of slowing the disease's progression. In 2021, Jackson faced multiple challenges with his health, including gallbladder surgery and a COVID-19 hospitalization with his wife. Later that year, he suffered a fall. He hit his head while attending a meeting at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and kept in the hospital overnight for observation. July 2023, Jackson announced his retirement as president of the Rainbow Push Coalition, succeeded by Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes III, whom we have featured on Indisputable before. I want to say this because I know anytime you have a figure who decides to actively, intentionally be polarizing, and let me explain what I mean by that. You take a position that is hardcore opposite to the position that you're fighting. So you intentionally polarize these positions in order to make a point, in order to show where our dysfunction may be. When you do that, you will get naysayers. Yes, you will get some folks that agree with you, but you will also get some people who disagree with you. Regardless of your opinion about Reverend Jesse Jackson, he has been in this fight for a very long time. And he has shown up where cameras were not. He has advocated in spaces where people may not remember or may never know. And I've seen some of these on occasion myself. So I applaud Jesse Jackson for his continued leadership, even in the midst of his the degenerative disease. He's continued to lead the fight as much and as best as he could. All right, dear brother, thoughts here.
My thoughts are that this man, Reverend Jesse Jackson, has served our communities. And by our, I don't just mean the Black community. I mean the Jewish community. I mean the Palestinian community. I mean the Pan-Arabism community. I mean just any situation where there was injustice. He has shown up and literally put his money where his mouth is, meaning that he collected funds and was able to actually help us in our movement for civil rights, because Black civil rights is LGBTQ civil rights. It is always that. It's the only time that trickle-down economics actually fully works. When Black people get a certain set of rights, you see that the Latino community and the gay community and every other community is not just far behind, but also helps there, and we work together. That is how it works, and that is the words of and principles of Reverend Jesse Jackson. 50 years of service. I remember as a person from DC when he served the District of Columbia as a shadow delegate and a senator in Congress, because the residents of District of Columbia do not get an actual Senate vote. So I remember when he served us effectively and was out there fighting the good fight. Even then, I was a kid, and yet we knew that this was a man who made things happen. The protege of Martin Luther King, and we have been very fortunate to have him this long, and we hope to have him even longer.
Well said. Very well said. We will keep you updated and bring in news as it comes, all right? Okay. We have another update. If you recall, a worker, an individual who simply was working, was harassed by a Florida couple. Now we have charges finally. I'm going to remind you of that incident and give you the update. Here it is.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. That's right, report me.
Take your black ass out of here.
Wrong.
Take your black ass out of here. You up. Come collect my book. Get in your food. Get your ass
Off my property.
out of here. Record that. Come back to grandma. Angry.
Good. I heard you show your employer. Show your employer, because this is what your employees
You
did.
dumb. There's no solution. Get your black ass out of here. You come back to grandma. Hang.
Don't go over his house either.
He don't want none. Get that dirty shit. Get your black ass out of here.
Now, they were big, bad, and bold in that confrontation of a man walking away. Here's the mugshot. Yeah. Let me give you the background to this story. In July, we reported on a story out of Florida. According to Atlanta Black Star, a black Florida man said he was afraid to return to work after a white male threatened to hang him during a racist tirade. He's a project manager. His name is Tavis Johnson. Said he was, quote, just doing his job when he knocked on a couple's door near Orlando, Florida, where he was chased and had racial slurs and violent threats yelled at him. That couple has now been hit with assault charges. Orange County court documents state that 51-year-old Stephen Edwin Wiley and 55-year-old Cheryl Ann Piley were charged on October 24th with a verbal assault aimed at a Mr. and Tavis Tyrone Johnson. The couple are already behind bars in the Orange County jail. They were jailed in early October on charges connected to an unrelated case. We'll get to that in a moment. So Johnson said the day he met Wiley and Piley, he was going door to door in the neighborhood to offer residents solar utility upgrades. I'm looking for some myself, brother, so you can send them here to Atlanta. That'd be great. He's knocking on doors. Very simple. No issue. If you're not interested, hey, not interested. Have a good day. He seems to be a very respectful individual. He was going door to door to give residents handouts about the upcoming utility upgrades in the community he would be overseeing. But when he knocked on his last door for the day, he was met with displeasure. Quote, the wife opened it, and I could tell immediately she was upset. I politely said, quote, I'm so sorry if this isn't a good time, Johnson recalled. What a beautiful way to de-escalate a situation. You're looking at context clues. You see the individual is upset, probably mad at life. Opens the door. It can't be personal. She doesn't know you. And you say, I'm sorry if this is a bad time. Johnson said the woman called her husband rather than just say, yeah, it's a bad time. Called her husband, who came running out of the house and demanded that he leave the property. Quote, before I could even step off the porch, he started screaming the N-word at me, yelling, get off my property, get out of my neighborhood, said Johnson, who recorded the confrontation. The couple called the sheriff's office the day after the confrontation when they started getting threatening phone calls, but their report only landed them at the center of a criminal investigation themselves. Both were charged with assault for intentionally and unlawfully threatening by word or act to do violence. In some jurisdictions, you call that a terroristic threat. Prosecutors say the couple, quote, did intentionally select Johnson as a victim based on the race, color, ancestry, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, national origin, mental or physical disability, or advanced age. Quote, I was terrified for my life. I have a 4-year-old daughter to take care of. And since this happened, I haven't been able to bring myself to go back to work, Johnson said. Quote, that fear lives in me now. I never imagined I would be threatened and attacked with hate just for doing my job. It's called post-traumatic, okay? He's dealing with the psychology of something so extreme. And naturally, when you have people yelling they're going to kill you or anything that's close or associated with that, you've done nothing wrong. And your response is to record and not escalate. Well, I could see how he would possibly assume that any encounter, any door he knocks on, can result in that. The unrelated case, okay, they are currently jailed for. So they were jailed in early October on charges connected to an unrelated case. The couple was arrested for allegedly beating and abusing the woman's stepmother at their home, which was also the site of their viral racist tirade. The victim told investigators that both of them had once locked her in her room for 2 days by tying rope to the door handle and attached it to a garage door. She also said they took away her phone. They took away her tablet so she could not contact anyone. Deputies found bruises and cuts on the stepmother that were consistent with physical abuse. In that case, the woman was charged with false imprisonment, felony battery, and battery domestic violence. Wiley, the male, was also facing similar felony charges, including false imprisonment, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, felony battery, and battery domestic violence. Wow. Come to find out, this young, unassuming individual knocking on doors in order to provide an opportunity for a utility upgrade for the solar utility job that he has, uncovered another major crime happening inside of that home, possibly happening on that same day. All right, hell of a story, a lot of twists here. Justice ultimately served, but another underlying crime already taking place. What say you?
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I do want to say that constantly these type of people always say, for example, Black people don't work, Latinos don't work, and then they're constantly badgering and bothering them or capturing them at their places of employment. Have you noticed that trend where it's like, and by the way, the racists who are like this, the Stephen and Sharons of the world, who say that they're the superior race, I'm sorry, Stephen and Sharon, we saw you. You are not the superior race. I just want to remind you of that. Stephen and Sharon, Wiley and Piley should have their own TV show. They want to be famous. Let's make them famous. Remember to post them everywhere you can. How I Met Your Racist Mother. Maybe we can have the racist housewives of Orange County, Florida. Maybe we can have the fresh rednecks of Central Florida. One little fight and I got sent to jail. Fresh rednecks of hell. That's who they are. Ontavious Johnson, I hope you get your day in court. I hope you win in the civil suit that should be filed. How do these people have that house? I have so many questions here, Dr. Ritchie. So many questions.
Yeah, and maybe we will get answers given the fact they have a few cases to get through before they are, let's just say, free and clear. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable. Stick and stay.
I don't care if you're Christian. In fact, I will fight for you to have your religious liberty and practice your Christianity. I believe in that. I don't believe in Christianity, which means that you do not get to dictate the way I live my life based on your religion. I don't care what the Bible says. You have every right in the world. All those women who identify with your religion have every right in the world to not get an abortion, to not take birth control, but they do not have the right to dictate my life and what I decide to do with my body. I don't care about your goddamn religion. I'm so tired of having nonstop conversations about what the Bible says. You live your life in the way that you interpret the Bible. Again, I don't care, but you don't get to take the Bible and tell me, well, the Bible says this in this chapter, in this verse. I don't care. I don't care. I don't believe in it. And I have the right, based on our Constitution, to not believe in it.
Here I I am Nancy Pelosi saying this country needs a strong Republican Party, and we do.
No one is representing what I call the silent majority, which is about 2/3 of this country, indisputably progressive.
But now we say the time has come for regime change in American television.
The Young Turks Network.
You have the Young Turks saying this is the time to fight for our values.
Young Turks is the oldest left media institution I believe that there is. Real front runner in the online media space.
You guys might know us.
Biggest online left of center outlet that exists.
All of you know the Young Turks.
People from this district heard about Justice Democrats by watching your show.
Thanks to the Young Turks for covering Trayvon Martin's case early on when few people were covering.
They don't stop, I won't stop. Racism won't stop, so I won't stop.
Species are at risk of going extinct. Major media outlets did not dedicate much time at all to that.
We reached a whole heap of people with our progressive message.
We're not the Young Turks, you're the Young Turks.
That 300 million is a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world.
We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking, one day, we would have looked at you like, are you nuts?
Young Turks has just passed another milestone. 25 billion lifetime views.
Damn.
Too strong, way too strong. That's 25 billion times someone watched the progressive message delivered to people all over the world. You know who helped to do that? You guys did. Our members and our audience are amazing, and they helped us to reach 2 generations, both millennials and Gen Z. They're both super progressive, and I gotta tell you, we're just getting started. Thank you.
Corruption, injustice, the system is rigged against you. Every day we're blasted by a flurry of terrible news from every angle, which can make it challenging to stay positive and know how to fight back. The Damage Report is your solution. I'm Johnny DeRola, and my daily morning show cuts through the noise and exposes the real damage being done to our country, the world, and how we can fight back against it. Corporate greed crushing workers? We'll name names. Politicians selling you out for their corporate overlords? We've got the receipts. Climate disaster, economic collapse, the rise of fascism. No spin, no establishment talking points, just the truth that you need to survive and resist. But it's not all doom and gloom. We'd love to have you join the Dragon Squad, our community of positive-minded activists who turn the day's news into positive action. With new episodes every weekday, listen to The Damage Report to get honest news, unflinching commentary, and daring coverage you won't find anywhere else. Listen to The Damage Report on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, because understanding the damage is the first step.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Let me remind everyone of chapter, all right? So remember, we have a deadline approaching. If you are 64 or older, you already see the spam calls and the junk mail flooding in. It's easy to tune it out. Here's what you need to know. Medicare plans change every single year. Many are now canceled for 2026. If you don't review the options, you could risk overpaying or losing coverage that you need. So I'm telling you about our trusted partner, Medicare partner, Chapter. They are different. They look at every plan in the country, not just the ones that pay big commissions, to find what truly fits your lifestyle, your needs, and your budget. It is quick. It is easy. All right. They can review your options in under 20 minutes. If your plan is already the best for you, they'll tell you it's already the best. If it is not, they will give you the options. Already, they are saving people around $1,100 on average. That's a good deal. And you can call them after the show. 1-800-965-4108. 1-800-965-4108. We want to make sure you're protected for 2026 with a company that will look at everybody. Okay? All right. Lot of comments. I'll read as many as I can. Tyler Hagner says, we are losing our heroes. Not losing them. It's part of the great procession, the lineage of how leadership works. We have and can continue to benefit from the great leadership that he has provided and will continue to benefit. Kimiko says, praying for Reverend Jesse Jackson. Amen to that. Yep. And Bubba Frank said, the Sword Dragon says, wow, am I going to have to compliment the police and the DA? Possibly. And thank you for this, by the way, Devil Bear Hocturian. They shouldn't have done that. That's right. There you go. All right. What if I told you that AI got a man arrested? You would say, no. And arrested at a casino. At that. Facial recognition. Put it up full mass. Here we go. Facial recognition technology at a Reno casino leads to a wrongful arrest. A long-haul truck driver who stopped by Reno's Peppermill Casino in September, this was 2023, saw his entire evening turn into a nightmare after he was misidentified by the venue's AI facial recognition technology as a local reprobate, according to court filings. This system flagged Mr. Jason Killinger as a man who had been 86 from the venue months earlier for sleeping on the premises. His face generated a 100% match. A 100% match with the banned individual who is identified in court documents only as M.E. Killinger was detained by casino security, then arrested by a rookie cop from the Reno Police Department. The officer named R. Jagger in the filings refused to believe Killinger and accused him of obtaining a fraudulent ID when he provided evidence of who he was. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not an episode of Reno 911. This actually happened. The individual had his ID. It is obvious it is not him. The cop decided to proclaim your real ID is fake, even though they have ways to check to see if an ID is real or not, and proceeds to arrest the man. The truck driver was detained for 11 hours. According to a wrongful arrest lawsuit that has been filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Nevada. For 4 of those hours, he was handcuffed, resulting in bruises and shoulder pain per the suit. Killinger was ultimately freed after a fingerprint check confirmed he was not his less reputable doppelganger. The plaintiff has already sued the Peppermill Casino in a case that was settled for an undisclosed amount. Now he's going after the officer who he accuses of fabricating evidence and engaging in malicious prosecution. Killinger claims that the officer, quote, knowingly inserted false statements into both his incident report and arrest declaration. Specifically, that his IDs were conflicting and that one or more appeared to be fraudulent. This is despite the plaintiff having a valid Nevada driver's license, UPS pay stub, and vehicle registration, all bearing his name and matching his physical descriptors. Typically, the only reason why a cop would note there are discrepancies is because it bolsters the reason for the arrest. If a supervisor would like to peer into why you arrested the person, or if a judge wants to see the evidence in fact, then the cop can say, well, the ID was conflicting. And because of that, we decided to go ahead and take them in. Because normally, if you have a person, you have a name, and you have a person who does not fit that name, that's it. That's not him. That's not the individual, unless he has presented fraudulent information. The filing says this was a deliberate falsification intended to, quote, manufacture probable cause after the officer realized there were inconsistencies between the casino's claim and Killinger's documentation. But that was the only inconsistency. The lawsuit says the officer told a supervising cop that Killinger, quote, probably has a DMV hookup. Once again, this is not an episode of Reno 911. He really said this to his supervisor. Supervisor seemingly believed it, implying access to fake identification, although there was no evidence that supported the claim whatsoever. The complaint seeks compensatory, special, and punitive damages, but does not specify the amounts. Let me tell you why he's going to win this case with the cops. The casino settled quickly for an undisclosed amount of money, probably because they don't want to be, well, put under oath, to have to answer any question related to this arrest. The cop is likely not going to want to be placed under oath, or the department doesn't want him placed on oath. And so I think they will settle quickly as well. But he did it the right way. He went after the casino first, got the real money. Now he's going after the government. All right, hell of a thing, man. The guy had not one piece of ID, but he had multiple corresponding pieces of ID. But if AI said you did it, sir, you did it according to that cop.
Interestingly enough, this is not the only time AI has been racist. AI has unconsciously been racist historically through the data points that we see. And the reason is because look at who a lot of the programmers are. You see that AI has a very hard time with facial recognition with people of dark skin tones, darker skin tones, and also with women. Remember, once again, it's that trickle down of civil rights that we should look at. So AI has done this not once, not twice, three. We're having almost 1,000 cases in the last 2 years. We also have an unidentifiable amount of police stopping or pulling over people in suspected cars that have been stolen when the driver is actually the owner because of AI. There are flaws in the technology. That is why computers make mistakes, but we look at human error. The job of the human is to not just trust the computer, but to go and double check, to add the human component. Hey, this is a different ID. Let's investigate further. This is a second piece of different ID. By the third piece of different ID, they should have been like, oh, that's probably not the guy. You probably got it wrong, computer. But no, they followed through, they went through, and guess what? They decide they're gonna get sued, and they deserve it. I'm against frivolous lawsuits, but these are the types of lawsuits that protect us as a society because it keeps the powers that be honest.
That's right. And the way the technology is licensed to be used, the license to use the technology of AI for facial recognition is to always have a person make the final confirmation. If you don't use it that way, according to the licensing agreement, you are in improper use of the technology. The technology says itself, it is not supposed to be the decision maker as it relates to identification. All right, we'll see what happens in the update. Okay, got something for you. It's a doozy. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish it Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
In public property! my child.
No, listen, we care. Sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
You came to my
we
door
care.
threatening my child.
Ain't nobody threatening nobody.
To talk to you.
I care.
I don't care about
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne.
Ain't nobody threatening nobody. You're the one out here with a bat.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Rich and powerful men abusing, assaulting, and abandoning young women. These rich and powerful men donate to the politicians in Washington, D.C., play golf with the elites in Washington, D.C. They are foreign leaders who we don't want to offend. They interact with our intelligence agencies that we don't want to disobey. There is something rotten in Washington.
And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
All those congressmen you just saw there are on the record as protecting the child rapists who were clients of Epstein. They have not prosecuted a single person outside of Epstein and Maxwell.
Yep.
Not one.
Is Trump engaging in this cover up because he's in the Epstein files?
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff.
So as the government keeps telling us, yeah, there's other people. Yeah, they raped those girls. So what? We're gonna cover up for them. But why are you guys so mad?
A nation that chooses impunity for the rich and the powerful at the expense of our children is a nation that has lost its moral purpose. Are you on the side of the people? Are you on the side of America's children? Or are you on the side of the rich and powerful who've had their thumb on the scales and shafted Americans for decades?
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one.
In a media landscape poisoned by corporate influence, only one show stands apart from the rest, The Young Turks. As the longest running daily news show on the internet, The Young Turks is an impactful voice of unfiltered truth, one you can trust to deliver the daily news with authenticity and honesty. For nearly 2 decades, TYT has been breaking the mold of media. We're not here to echo the powerful or the elite, we're here to challenge them. Our mission is to give you accurate news, fight the establishment, and cover stories that mainstream media keeps you in the dark about, which matter to your everyday life. We've remained a leader in online news because of our established credibility with an engaged audience looking for alternative media that represents the real concerns of everyday Americans. Listen to The Young Turks, a news show that only answers to you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. A mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
All right, welcome back. I apologize. We had a technical issue. Great time to tell you about, well, Noble Mobile. Let's put it up. The cell phone carrier that pays you money, really dope concept. You get all of this unlimited data. You get great usage, $50 a month, flat rate. But if you don't use a lot of data, if you're not into the talk to everybody and download everything lifestyle, you get cash back, not a discount, not some kind of Noble Mobile money that you're going to apply for them, but actual cash sent to you. Nobody is doing it like this. It is the only cell phone carrier in town doing this. All right. And we are partnering with them. We're teaming up. So they are allied with us so that you don't get ripped off, number one. It is the only wireless plan that pays you to use your phone less. If you switch to Noble's No Bull plan, you can get unlimited data for only $50 a month. And for the data you don't use, you get cash back. You can spend it however you want to. It's your money. It doesn't go back to some CEO or executive team. It goes to you where it should be. Stop letting your unused data go into the pockets of billionaires and shareholders. Let it come straight to you. If you switch, you can save an average of $500 to $1,000 a year on your phone bill. That is the average thus far. Switch to Noble today by visiting, after the show, go.tyt.com/switch. It supports TYT and our mission to deliver true independent media. Once again, go.tyt.com/switch or go to the QR code in front of you. All right. We're going to try this again, okay? I may be rusty. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Remember that! They came to my door threatening my child!
No, listen, we care. Sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
You came to my
We
door
care.
threatening my child!
Ain't nobody threatening nobody.
To talk to you.
I care.
I don't care about
Get the fuck out
Cheyenne.
of here. Ain't nobody threatening nobody. You're the one out here with a bat.
Well, the person who came on the scene with the bat. Okay. Guaranteed there's about to be some more tomfoolery happening. Here it is.
No, it ain't. This ain't your property. This is not your fucking. No. No. That yard? That yard is your property. That yard is your property. Not this. This is public property. Just like I can park in front of that house, ain't about it. Public property.
Hi, my name's Alicia Marie. How you doing, bitch?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
What are you doing here? Inducing panic?
Oh, because we care? Because we care? That's right, because we care.
Come outside. Girl, come out the car.
Ain't nobody come nowhere. Came and talk to another parent, but you don't even know how to be civil.
My mom white trash, you little bitch. Not when a grown-ass woman talks to my child.
I mean, if I had pearls, I would clutch them. Put it at full mass. Ironically, even though the N word was dropped a bunch of times, according to my sources, no black people were involved in the making of this video. They put up the, yeah, all right. So, you see, right there. So I understand that you're there because according to you, you said we care. So it's time for you to start caring a little bit less and move on. All right. She looks like a supervillain. The bat. Once again, the excessive use of the N-word becomes almost backstaged by the other theatrics here. Karen with the bat being one of them. Saying, let's put her up again. She said, quote, Jessica, she did not understand her. She said, quote, this ain't your property, N-word, she yelled, oblivious to the fact that everyone involved was standing on a public road. Gesturing broadly, she stated, I paid this ish. I paid 99 mil. I'm not even going to comment on that. I'm going to allow dear brother to take that one. Sir, what are your thoughts here?
Well, first of all, I actually blame President Trump. If we had our SNAP benefits, maybe these kind of things wouldn't happen. Second of all, I do want to say we need to do something as a society about all of this white on white crime. This is now getting out of hand. Last but not least, let's remember, America, these people vote. These are the people that vote. The Hills have eyes, go to the voting booth, and then they vote just as much as your vote counts. So that is why it is very important that all of us, not just some of us, but all of us go out and share our voices, because if not, then that is the voice that you will hear on your public streets, which she, by the way, paid $99 million for. I will say it was a very well-paved street. I will say that.
Yes. All right. We'll bring you updates if there's an update to bring. Okay. Well, firefighters, racism on recording. But this one is quite interesting. I'm going to go to it and bring you the update. Here it is.
And this video is of a Lynchburg firefighter saying this. After I posted that video, many of you reached out to me and sent me a copy of this lawsuit of a former firefighter who accuses the city of Lynchburg and the fire department of wrongful termination based on race and discrimination. In the lawsuit, that individual talks about a video that he presented to the chief deputy of the fire department. In the video, a firefighter is going on a racist rant with a woman he's allegedly with, dating, or married. I'm not quite sure. Well, that person is a captain in the fire department.
Well, now, this was a video courtesy of our dear brother, Robbie Harvey. And now you are about to hear the alleged recording. Here it is.
And here is the alleged voice of that captain. Take a listen.
Are you talking to that? What?
Don't push me in my sock.
What are you talking to that?
Let me get my phone and call my family, because you're obviously out of your mind.
What are you talking to right now?
What?
What are you talking to now?
Why are you spitting in my face? Get out of my face.
You loving fucking bitch.
Now, this video was allegedly presented to fire department officials back in 2017. And according to the lawsuit, nothing was done. The only thing that was talked about was a possible apology from Captain Scott Hargis to the individual who filed this lawsuit. But apparently that apology did not go well. Now, here's the interesting part. Nothing was done allegedly to the captain. Matter of fact, he was promoted since officials were made aware of that video.
According to the allegation, he was saying, what N-word are you seeing now? Okay. Here are the following allegations according to the lawsuit. So Brian Younger, Mr. Younger, a former firefighter for the city of Lynchburg, alleges that the city discriminated and retaliated against him on the basis of race. Younger alleges. He says he experienced this racism several times. Race-based scrutiny and disparate treatment during his employment tenure, and he contends that he was ultimately fired as retaliation for attempting to address said issues. The alleged mistreatment began about 10 years ago, 10 years into his term, when he was shown a very disturbing video. According to the lawsuit, in or around 2017, Younger, quote, was given, end quote, a video in which his colleague, Scott Hargis, is shown screaming at Hargis' wife. Hargis accuses her of sleeping with black men. And he uses the N-word liberally. Now, based on the allegation, he was not demoted. He was not disciplined. He was not fired. And more. Younger was greatly disturbed by this video. He saw it as a clear misconduct and saw it as clear racism. Concerned about the video and racial climate in the workplace, he showed it to several of his black colleagues. He sought to gather a group of employees who would present the recording to management and make a complaint. But every employee he asked to stand with him feared retaliation and decline. Within a few weeks of the video surfacing, Younger was instructed to speak to then Deputy Chief Greg Wormser, and now current fire chief. So Greg told Younger that he was aware of the video. Younger expected the chief would seek to address the issue. And he expressed his feelings of hurt and betrayal that Hargis had made such harsh statements. But rather than the chief laying out a plan to confront Hargis, Younger himself became the subject of scrutiny. He was asked if he planned to harm Hargis. He said, no. It's so damn silly. You got to laugh, not to cry. The chief says, do you plan to harm the racist individual? So immediately, the victim, Mr. Younger, has to now defend himself from an accusation that he is somehow the perpetrator. He's a victim of racism. who has a supervisor who is obviously racist. The supervisor didn't say, what man are you seeing or who are you seeing? What N-word are you seeing? He was encouraged to accept an apology from Hargis. Now that means basically, Chief, you're saying you know that it was him. There's no alleged in your mind, if this is true. So he encouraged him to accept an apology. To him, this implied that the problem would not be addressed further afterward. And although he was prepared to accept an apology from Hargis, he did not expect the apology to take the form of Hargis showing up at Younger's home at 9 o'clock in the morning with a 6-pack of beer. At his doorstep, Hargis asked Younger if he was recording the interaction. Younger was offended by the question and told Hargis that he was no longer interested in his apology. Younger generally avoided Hargis in the workplace after that, despite the tension. Both Hargis and Younger remained in good standing in their companies. The brother said he was willing to accept an apology, not a tap dance. He was willing to accept an apology. Don't patronize me like you're not racist. Don't act as if we're buddies. Don't try that with me. Show some respect for the common sense that I do have. It is clear who you are. It is clear what you are. You show up to the man's home with a 6-pack of beer with the question, are you recording me? Younger's 2018 performance evaluation stated that he, quote, truly underestimates himself and his abilities, and he was called on to investigate more fires than any other investigator who worked for the city throughout 2018. Hargis, for his part, was twice promoted since 2017, since that video surfaced. Despite what Younger characterizes as Hargis's clear discriminatory animus for Black Americans. And what he's dealing with is a culture. See, the culture that supervises Hargis, while they may not have said the N-word, they probably said something to the effect of support for Mr. Hargis and the way he decided to accost his significant other. So there's this cultural connection that is not shared with Mr. Younger. So Mr. Younger, doing the dutiful thing, the thing that's on paper to do, the thing we're supposed to do as public servants, he does that thing. And all of a sudden, nothing happens but promotions. Several years later, as the COVID-19 pandemic took hold, Younger alleges that he began to call out racism and microaggressions in the workplace where he saw them, which only led to further discrimination and retaliation against him. For instance, supervisory staff at the city began to scrutinize Younger's unit more than any other unit. In particular, Battalion Chief Kenny Turner on the left, quote, began to check up on everything Younger did despite not being Younger's supervisor. BC Turner went so far as to initiate disciplinary action against Younger for a contrived reason. When Younger experienced COVID symptoms and arranged for a colleague to cover his shift in accordance with company policy, BC Turner escalated the situation by going to Battalion Chief Alan Carwile on the right to complain that Younger had, quote, no call and no showed, end quote. BC Carwile called Younger to ask for clarification. He responded that he was simply following COVID protocol and had asked a colleague to cover his shift. BC confided in him that Turner was, quote, on the warpath trying to get him, end quote. BC Turner had never attempted to contact Younger. Younger filed a formal complaint about BC Turner's behavior, quote, feeling that he was being targeted unreasonably for disciplinary action based upon his race and his prior reports of racial discrimination in the workplace. But the city's hasty investigation concluded that Younger's claim was unfounded. There's more. Later, Younger was speaking with his colleague named Frankie Fowler, seen here receiving an award for Firefighter of the Year 2023 and Master Firefighter in 2024. When, quote, the subject of the workplace environment came up, Younger expressed that he had experienced racial discrimination and hostility at the fire department, to which Fowler responded with disbelief. When Younger provided names and specifics, Fowler only expressed further disbelief. When Younger asked why Fowler had such a hard time believing him, Fowler did not respond. Captain Quincy Scott on the left was present during that conversation. Although the conversation, quote, never got combative on either side, Younger soon found himself accused of ganging up on the young Fowler the next time Younger worked. The accusation charged that Younger and Captain Scott had cornered Fowler and attempted to force him to say the N-word, which Younger maintains never happened. Younger felt that this interaction, like the B.C. Turner interaction, quote, was clear retaliation for his discussion of racial discrimination in the workplace. Isn't it ironic that bigots are okay with being racist, just not being called one? There's more. January 2021, the aftermath of the attack on the U.S. Capitol, Younger shared a meme on his social media profile showing the January 6th rioters, domestic terrorists, attempting to climb the walls of the Capitol. The meme superimposed photos of butter crackers on the rioters. Younger was aware that several of his colleagues had traveled to Washington that day to participate in the attack. He was not aware that the reference to butter crackers could be seen as a slur. The meeting was called to discuss Younger's interaction, not the fact that anybody from the department went to the Capitol to commit terrorism. Based on Fowler's complaint, but during the conversation, the attorney showed Younger a copy of the social media post and informed him that some of his colleagues had found it offensive, despite Younger's colleagues on social media interacting positively with the post. Once again, the young brother is on the defensive and has to prove he's not the perpetrator. Put him up full mask. Okay, so several weeks after that, Younger received more disturbing video. So the wife of one of his colleagues, Brennan Lawson, contacted Younger directly and provided several video recordings of Lawson screaming the N-word at pedestrians while he drove past them in his car. Younger attempted to show the video to his supervisors, but they were uninterested in discussing it. They were only interested in his meme. Put him up, man. This brother been through a whole lot. So Younger tried to present the video during his remarks at City Hall. A City Hall meeting, freedom of speech is intact. You get to make presentation. You get to say what you want to say. It is your freedom. But city staff, the acting deputy city manager, Kent White, and then the then human resources coordinator, Nicole Campbell, not pictured, prohibited him from doing so. Let me take you to 2022, month of July. Younger arrived at work to find that Lawson, his colleague from the N-word screaming video, had left his personal items on Younger's bunk. He, quote, asked aloud who the items belonged to. Lawson, who was in the next bunk, stated that the items were his and that he would move them. Younger stated that he didn't want other people's personal items on his bunk and asked Lawson not to use this bunk as storage in the future. He then left the bunk room to retrieve more of his personal items from his vehicle. When Younger returned to the bunk room, Lawson's items were still on his bunk. So he began to move the items himself. In response, Lawson became defensive, saying, "I was going to get the stuff, dude." Younger said, quote, "Yes, but you didn't. You'll never touch any of my belongings again, Brennan." Lawson asked why he was making such a big deal out of it and stated that he didn't do anything to Younger's bed. Younger replied, quote, "I don't know what you might have done. Just don't ever touch my belongings." Lawson continued to argue, and Younger continued to ask him, not to touch his belongings in the future. Eventually, Younger left the bunk room. When Younger later returned, he crossed paths with Lawson as Lawson was exiting. Lawson stopped and said, quote, "Don't never get in my face again." Younger replied that he had not been in his face. Lawson repeated his demand at Younger not to, quote, get in his face and said, "What's your problem? We're supposed to be friends." Younger replied that they were not friends and referenced Lawson's use of racial slurs in the recording he had seen. At that point, as Lawson moved toward Younger and Younger continued calling Lawson racist, colleagues intervened. Lawson then went to report to Captain Scott while Younger spoke to Lombre, who calmed him down. Younger also went to Captain Scott separately. He complained to Scott and B.C. Carwile that the fire administration failed him by allowing racial inequities to occur and go unchecked for years. He stated that the fire department was, quote, just worried about optics and not working to correct the problem. Already seems like way too much. This guy has been dutiful. This individual received messages from family members about how racist his colleagues are. His colleagues are saying, no, we're supposed to be friends. Okay? You must be my friend. Even if there's racism here. Obviously, we're friends. On July 18, 2022, an investigation was finally initiated and Younger was placed on administrative leave. Okay? So now he got an investigation. He's placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. Younger pleads that only he was placed on paid administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation into his mutual altercation with Lawson was the reason Younger was then terminated 2 years later, June 2024. The investigatory report authored by B.C. Carwile was provided to Younger 2 months later. The report stated that the investigation had concluded in August of 2022. It concluded in August of 2022. The report found Lawson's allegations were true. Younger pleads sufficient facts to support the claim that he was treated differently than similarly situated white employees. Indeed, he claims that the city terminated him under circumstances where similarly situated white employees were not even disciplined. For instance, he alleges that Hargis was promoted multiple times after being recorded using racial slurs, that Lawson was not disciplined after being recorded using racial slurs, and that B.C. Carwile, who authored the investigatory report, was not terminated even after being arrested for domestic violence. The city denied any allegation of retaliation and had sought to dismiss the lawsuit by request, but the request was denied. Damn. This brother has been going through this for many, many years, so I thought it was proper to make sure you had the full story. Dear brother, thoughts here?
Well, I'm going to be very, very real, Dr. Richie. There is a lot to unpack here. I'm pretty sure I've seen this on an episode of Chicago Fire. It was like a series arc. Let's go through the thing. First of all, not very surprised that there's racism in a city called Lynchburg, especially in Virginia. By the way, if you're not familiar, Lynchburg is right next to Blacksburg. There is no way that is a coincidence. I just want to remind you of Virginia's long history when it comes to racism. I myself being from DC, right outside of DC as well, the Northern Virginia area, very different than the rest of Virginia. Beautiful, beautiful state, but there are lots of problems that still exist. Now, I will say this, I'm not gonna have a very popular opinion when it comes to a lot of these things, because while I personally did not like that Donald Sterling's sons all work at this fire department and have a problem with their wives bringing blacks to the games or whatever was going on, I do not think that personal videos from home should be brought into the workplace or be system for workplace punishment. That is not how that works. Those were at home, not trying to eradicate personal private beliefs. I'm not for that. That is at home. I do think that they should check their partners and see why this keeps happening between different ones. Now, I will say, however, that there's also nothing good about the good old boys. These good old boys and that system is obviously very corrupt, as we see, because what I do think it is indicative of is a system and a culture of racism that is obviously prevailing and persisting in this fire department. And that is why it is corroborative or pre-appraised evidence that can allow for Younger to say, hey, I am expressing to you that this is what happens. These are the people. This is why it's happening. At that point, things should get done. Stop trying to sweep Younger under the rug. This is where we get the idea, the notion of uppity. That's why it is a person who's standing up for their rights, their principles, and their beliefs. And because they're causing problems, because it's more comfortable to just let things be and just allow for the racism to persist and know your place and all these things, that person becomes uppity. And you see that in the way that they handled Younger. What did they do? They placed him on administrative leave. They constantly badger him. They go after him. Let's not remove the problem. Let's remove the person who is bringing up the problem. That is wrong. And this is the problem. We own this company. It is a fire department. That is, we are their employees. We are the people paying them, the state taxpayers. So remember, this is an investigation. It is a show of corruption. And it is just a reminder that racism is very far, far away from being done with this race.
Yeah, and I would say this, and I generally agree with you about the stuff that happened external of the job being brought in. But even in a court of law, there's an exception. And if you can utilize information that shows a clear pattern, then that outside information or information not really related to the case but clearly shows a pattern is then acceptable. And I would say this about the firefighters in the situation at hand. If they simply would have dealt with this, because it seems as if Mr. Younger is a very reasonable human being who was willing to accept an apology, who was willing to accept, hey, I'm sorry, and let's move on, that if they would have just dealt with some of this, you never would have had the big snowball you have today. It's unfortunate that it's here, especially given the fact that taxpayers are paying for this every day. And lastly, I'll say this, dear brother, if you're in a position of public trust where you got to make decisions to save people's lives, the fact that you think anybody is an N-word, the fact that you think any black person is subhuman to you, that will cause me some caution to say this person is worthy to be in such a position of public trust when it comes to saving lives. But I get your point, generally speaking. Okay. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable stick stay. Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either. All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We have a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. Okay. Wang Jun says that Gary was so crazy, Dr. Rich's computer disconnected itself to stay sane. That's probably exactly what happened. Didn't think of that. And Layman Shaman, Karen crashed the system. It wasn't a double dose. It was a Karen overdose. LOL. I like what you did there. And yeah, so Knuckle Dragon, racist firefighters need not apply. The job is too important to worry about that element being a part of any emergency situation. That's right. That's right. All right. Well, yeah, here we go. Arizona Democrat finally sworn in after government shutdown ended. We have the update. Here it is.
What is most concerning is not what this administration has done, but what the majority in this body has failed to do. Hold Trump accountable as a co-equal branch of government that we are. It has been 50 days since the people of Arizona's 7th Congressional District elected me to represent them. 50 days that over 800,000 Arizonans have been left without access to the basic services that every constituent deserves. This is an abuse of power. One individual should not be able to unilaterally obstruct the swearing in of a duly elected member of Congress for political reasons. That is why I will sign the discharge petition right now to release the Epstein files.
Representative Adelita came in swinging. This is when you know what kind of leader somebody is going to be. She was just sworn in. She had to be sworn in standing next to the same cat that unlawfully decided to wait 50 days to do so. Let's put it up for a mask. And I'm sure, as they always do, niceties are shared. You know it wasn't personal, right? Welcome aboard. Glad to have you in the U.S. Congress. Probably gave her a little pin to wear on her lapel. Invited her to a fancy dinner with some lobbyists, some money people. But when she got on that stage, when she got the opportunity to address the people, she clearly said exactly what was on her mind. Let's get into it. Arizona can now finally say they have their duly elected representative sworn into Congress after a 50-day delay, and has signed a much anticipated petition for a vote to release files on the deceased child sex predator Jeffrey Epstein. House Republicans, led by none other than Mike Johnson, dragged their feet on letting the representative officially join ranks, using the government shutdown as their poor excuse. Obviously, supporters have openly speculated that the delay is only driven by the fact that she would be the 218th signature in the House for a petition to vote to release the Epstein files. The irony is that before she got sworn in a few days ago, it was revealed that Trump is mentioned in email correspondence, where it seems as if, well, he definitely knew about the, let's just say, illegal recreational activities of this trafficker. The deal to end the government shutdown meant that the speaker could not put off swearing her in anymore, and Wednesday brought several news reports that the White House had been putting intense pressure on House Republicans, including Boebert, to flip and revoke their signatures. It's a damn shame. However, as several commenters have pointed out, the House discharge petition is not the final step for the release of the files. It will still need to pass the Senate and get the signature of Donald Trump. Now, in more Epstein revelations, Trump's relationship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein continued into his first term in the White House, so much so that Epstein spent Thanksgiving with Trump while the president was in office. That's according to a newly released emails written by the late financier. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released a new batch of emails Wednesday obtained from Epstein's estate, followed by the Republican-led panel's release of 20,000 additional documents. And one of those exchanges shows he claims to have spent Thanksgiving 2017, Trump's first as president, at his private Mar-a-Lago resort. Now, why is that such a big deal? Because this was after it was known that he was a child sex trafficker. That's why. So he's at the house of the then president of the United States. There's more. Epstein exchanged emails on Thanksgiving morning, November 23rd, 2017, with Manhattan modeling management guru Faith Cates, who asked where he was spending the holiday. He told her he would spend the day with Eva, likely a reference to his former girlfriend. And Cates mentions Addison Dubin's husband, Glenn Dubin, by name and asks, who else is down there? Epstein names Trump, hedge fund founder David Fitzgerald, and someone else he referred to as Hansen. White House records and contemporaneous media reports show Trump spent Thanksgiving 2017 at Mar-a-Lago, but the White House did not disclose a guest list. Trump took FBI agents off the streets in order to redact his name. Trump has placed pressure on members of Congress to not sign a petition to release the Epstein files. Trump appoints individuals who are all about releasing the files. He appointed them to key positions, FBI director, DOJ, etc., AG. So now you have all these key individuals. Where's your deputy FBI director? All of these folks were release the file people. Why appoint release the file people if you're not going to release the file? Well, easy. Because see, those are the most credible people to tell you there's no file to release. So you appoint individuals who are not qualified for the job, but they are qualified in one aspect. They had credibility with the Epstein release the file folk. But if they tell you there's no file, you believe them, or at least that is his plan, allegedly. All right, dear brother, thoughts?
I don't understand how America is still worried about the Epstein files. Don't you remember when Obama wore a tan suit? Let's go after Obama. He wore a tan suit one day. Do we not remember when America lost their minds when President Obama wore a tan suit, and yet for some reason the Epstein files is not a recurring, almost January 6th-like episode? We should be fighting for these files because of what they are, what they mean, and most importantly, what they stand for. The lack of transparency in the government, to the point where for years we were told there were files, and then one day they told us there weren't. Man was prosecuted because there were files, and now they refuse to release them. What are they holding and what are they hiding? Why are we going through this as an American public? This is why the Epstein files, they are indicative of the corruption in the government that needs to be rooted and weeded out. And President Trump seems to be leading the corruption at this date and time. We have the situation with Congressperson Grijalva from Arizona, who came out swinging as a reminder of why we need more people like her, and more importantly, more women in the government. This is what is needed. We need that fire, that passion, that truth, that honor, that sincerity, that integrity back in the American government. And now we see once again, we are being railroaded, gaslit, and all the things when it comes to this Epstein file. America, stand up, rise up. They work for you. The government works for you. We do not work for them. By the way, the government shutdown reminded me, maybe we really don't need a government that bad. Just saying, think about it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how people are okay. It's our leaders who are messed up. Because if you go out to a general marketplace, you go to the store, you go to a restaurant, people are fine. People are absolutely okay. They can get along with each other. They'll talk to each other. It's the leaders who are jacked up. All right. Brother, always fascinating to have you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you. Check out your great work.
Find me all over social media at I Am Tehran and at a comedy venue near you where I'm speaking truth with a little bit of laugh in order to help the sugar that helps that medicine go down. We all need a laugh right now, but we all need the truth even more. So make sure to come out to one of my shows. And honestly, Dr. Ritchie, you are such a beacon of light and such a wonderful person. Thank you for doing everything you do.
Wow, brother, thank you. The feeling is mutual for you and your leadership, man. We appreciate you making us smile, laugh, and think during this process in particular. Thank you, dear brother.
Thank you.
All right, remember, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.